Welcome to the Lead Her Radio Show, where up is in and women are on the rise. Featuring your host, Kim Boudreaux-Smith, business consultant and strategist, speaker, and international best-selling author. Kim supports women entrepreneurs in becoming top producers in their business. Kim's guests will be sharing business strategies and how to overcome obstacles and achieve true success. And now, here's your host, Kim Boudreaux-Smith.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Lead Her Up is In, Women on the Rise. And I always say women on the rise, but my guess, these women have risen. They are not on the rise. They continue to keep moving forward on the rise. But welcome back. We're broadcasting live from the Bold radio station. And tonight is Bold Mindful Mondays. My guest is one of my co-authors in the Bold is Beautiful book. I cannot wait for all of you to meet her. She's going to be rendering some wonderful business strategy tips tonight. And I also learned, which we will go over at the end of the show, she's got a wonderful PDF giveaway I'm excited about. I love giving things away. But my guest, Ariana, she's waiting for us in the beautiful green rooms. But before we move forward and bring her out, I want to go over a few things. Again, this is the Bold Radio Station. The website is www.boldradiostation.com. If you ever dream of hosting your radio show, please reach out to me there. There's a lot of information on that website. However, if you would like to learn more and to have a stress-free, worry-free radio show, reach out on the contact page, and myself or a member of my team will get back with you, and we'll go from there. Also, as everyone knows, and I'm going to say it again, on December 20th, we launched, this past December 20th, gosh, that was a month ago already, we launched Bold is Beautiful, Kindness, Beauty, and Strength. 27 women boldly put their hearts on their sleeves and wrote a chapter about their personal triumph and tribulation that they've had to go through to arrive to where they are now, successfully in their businesses and, of course, very successfully in their lives. And by the way, business and lives are not separate, even though I do speak like that. I just don't want to give off the wrong message. When we own our own businesses, it's us. So if you have not gotten your book, it's on Amazon.com. So Bold is Beautiful. It is, the stories are amazing. These women, I couldn't have been more elated with what the women have brought forth onto the pages. So grab your copy. If you've not grabbed your copy yet, it became an international bestseller. We launched it Friday. Saturday, we had the statistics that we made international bestseller on Amazon. And by Monday morning, we found out on one area, we hit number one. So that put us in the number one international bestselling category. Yay to all those beautiful 27 women. And by the way, I am showcasing each and every single one of them on my radio show. And Ariana, who's the guest this evening, is one of those beautiful, and I mean beautiful, inside and out co-authors, and so I'll be bringing her out here momentarily. Also, too, on May 2nd of this year, we will be launching Bold is Beautiful 2, and no, that is not the title. We will be launching Bold is Beautiful, Breakthrough to Business Strategies, and we'll just ramp that up a tad bit from 27 to 29 beautiful women that are going to share tips, strategies, I like to call it meaty content on how to move forward within their chapters when you are an entrepreneur and working all alone in your home, how to continue to move forward, how to continue to keep the sales up and the phones ringing, and most importantly, how to keep your mental health positive and moving forward. So I'm looking forward to May 2nd. I'm looking forward to May 2nd, not just because of the book. I'm in Michigan. Can we get to spring already? Oh my goodness gracious. Ariana and I were talking about some weather because she's on the West Coast and it was absolutely beautiful where she lives. But that is enough. I want to move forward. I want to bring Ariana out. So if I may, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ariana Lise Newcomer. She's a transformational voice coach, is the developer of the Reclaim Your Authentic Voice programs and Bodywork for the Voice. Ariana teaches conscious entrepreneurs, coaches, and authors to speak confidently from their authentic selves and communicate powerfully for dramatically successful public speaking. She is a Harvard graduate, a former professional opera singer, massage therapist, certified provider of the listening program, mom of 2, and has taught voice since 1995. She is a 2-time graduate of the Still Voice training, a certified caring economy conversation leader with the Caring Economy campaign, and an internationally published best-selling author. A voice injury ended her singing career, and her journey back to a healthy voice, along with her rich performing, teaching, and therapeutic background, inspired her unique and powerful approach to transformational voice coaching. So, would everybody please put your hands together and welcome my beautiful guest, Ariana.
Hey, applause to come in on. That's wonderful. Thank you, Kim. I'm so delighted to be here.
Well, first of all, I'm delighted to have you. And absolutely, I have a cool audience, Ariana. They better be applauding my guest. Okay, my opinion there is very biased, but I have some amazing, I say every week, I just can't wait to bring out my amazing guests. And I'm thinking, gosh, Kim, you say that every week. I'm biased. Of course, all my guests are amazing, you know, and especially the ones that are kicking off the new year are all coming from our Boldest Beautiful book. But, you know, Ariana, I know back when we're connected on social media, and we had a very nice connected phone call several months ago regarding around the Boldest Beautiful book, and I got to learn a lot about your background. But just citing your bio right now, I'm speechless, and I'm like a 3-year-old inquisitive child right now, and going, okay, where shall we begin? Because there's so much here. So let's begin. Most of us think coaching, that transformational voice coaching is just for singers, and you've got that beautiful opera singing background, but people think this is just for singers and actors. So let's start right here. Tell us what that is. Tell us what transformational voice coaching is.
Well, voice coaching is actually for anybody who speaks, anybody who does any kind of speaking for work especially. And if you are an entrepreneur, anytime that you are talking about your business, whether it's your 30-second elevator speech, or you're on the phone with a client, or you are on stage talking to prospective clients, or you are giving a presentation if you work in a corporation, if you're again on the phone with your boss or your client, you are doing public speaking. And many of us have issues with our voices and the way that we speak that we don't even necessarily realize we have, that are negatively impacting our ability to communicate effectively. Mm-hmm. So transformational voice coaching, which I do, is also not just about voice, but it's also about who we are in the world. And our voice is us in this very profound way. Our voice is our primary instrument of communication and connection. And you listeners right now, all you get of us is our voices. Mm-hmm. You don't see our faces, you're not seeing our body language, our gestures, our wardrobe, our bling, any of those other things that can help create an impression. All you've got to connect with us is our voices. And Kim has this wonderful expressive voice. Mm-hmm. And I know all of you who are her habitual listeners know that about her. You know that when you listen to her speak, she is going to to be interesting and exciting to listen to. And it's not just because of what she says, it's how she says it. So because our voice is us, we can actually, when we're holding our voices back, we're holding ourselves back. And an example of a person who's holding themselves back in their voice is someone who speaks very softly and quietly. And they might have a reason why they started to speak that way. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But all of you listening, your brains just started to turn off, didn't they? When I went into that very soft, quiet voice. So if you have that kind of soft, quiet voice, there's some reason why you're holding back your self-expression in that way. So that when I work with clients, we get into why is it that you decided, and that was a decision that you made at some point in your life, unconscious. So you don't know that you made that decision, but you did make that decision that you were going to speak that way. You were going to voice yourself that way. And it became a habit. And those habits of speech just stay all through life unless we do something about it. So I really help people to change those habits of speech that are really getting in their way and potentially sabotaging them.
You know, Ariana, first of all, that's interesting how you put that. Even if it is literally on an elevator, doing an elevator pitch, or we're literally on an elevator, or it's a handshake. Hi, how are you? Because I know locally here, when my husband and I go up to our favorite restaurant, I always run into somebody I know there, and they could be sitting with another couple. It could just be a simple, hi, how are you, basic introduction, handshake, and how we are presenting ourselves. Now, that's in live living color, with just our bling and our clothes, and not just everything, but also through the power of our voice. And I say that a lot with women because I own this radio station, and I'm a big believer that women really need to put themselves out there through the power of their voice to take their business globally. Oh my gosh, you have no, Ariana, what you just said, my mind is going a mile a minute of how we can be utilizing you. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, but so let's come back to what are some of your current clients? I mean, is it a potential person in corporate America getting ready to step into a very high-powered managerial position where they're going to be delivering speeches within their corporation and managing people that come to you and say, I got to do something here because I'm going to now be presenting myself in a different way? Or, so what kind of clients do you have?
I specialize in working with conscious women entrepreneurs, especially. And as you just mentioned, women in particular tend to have more difficulty really speaking powerfully and confidently. And part of that is cultural. There's a cultural expectation that for women to speak softly and be nice. And you probably heard about Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, that came out last year.
Yes.
Well, she has a wonderful example in that book of this cultural sort of matrix that we live in. There was a psychological study that was done that gave an example of people who were given a story to read about a business person as they went through their day and did this, and that. And there were two identical stories, and the name in one of the business person was Harry, and in the other, the business person was Harriet. And then people were asked to rate how much they liked the person and various other things. And most everybody liked Harry, and almost nobody liked Harriet. Exactly the same story, with only a gender difference.
Wow. So
we have this sort of millstone around our necks as women. And men are not the only ones who do that. It was women and men who read that story who reacted the same way. So it wasn't that the men didn't like Harriet. Neither the men nor the women liked Harriet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an unconscious story that's playing all the time in the background of our lives as women. And that's one of the issues that I work with, is this cultural underpinning. And that can be really difficult also for women from certain Asian cultures that especially expect women to speak softly, like the Japanese culture, or in India, that can be so also. And those are two cultures from which I have had women tell me that they are expected to always be soft-spoken. But I have worked with men. I have worked with people in corporations. I've worked with a minister. I had a Unitarian Universalist minister who worked with me after she got feedback that her preaching voice was not very nice to listen to.
Wow.
So, and I also worked with a law professor who was getting feedback from her students that she sounded like she didn't care about her subject.
Oh, wow.
So there are lots of options, but my special love is working with women entrepreneurs, especially ones whose business is about empowering other women to come forward and really fulfill their gifts in the world, because I am on a bigger mission to really change the world. I'm serious. Our planet is in a terrible state. We're at a potential tipping point where if we keep going the way we're going, we're going to make our world unlivable.
Yep.
We can't continue the way we are going. And one of the keys to shifting the cultural conversations that we have is empowering women to come forward. And because women tend to work more in partnership with others, and I really want not just women to be empowered, but also conscious men's voices to be empowered. We need all of the conscious voices out there of people who are aware that we can't continue to just take from the environment, that we have to start taking care of our planet, that we have to value the activities of caring for each other, caring for our children, and caring for our planet. So anyone whose business and whose mission is aligned with that, I want to help you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to help you get your voice out there. I want your business to succeed, because we need all of us out there to change this.
Yes, yes, absolutely, Ariana. And you and I have had numerous conversations over this, and that's why we connected so quickly. Because not that men cannot do this. So I'm going to say this, Ariana, and I'm saying this publicly, globally. I am not picking on genders. I, like Ariana, I work with women. So my languaging is female gendered, biased, and based. So with that being said, I agree with you. This state that this world is in, we are on a huge paradigm shift, and I don't want to hear that it's going to get worse before it gets better, because
Right.
I don't want
time for that.
Yeah, no, we don't have time for that. It's like, and I'm not asking for everybody, stop now, but women are the paradigm energetic shift out there. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need men, because we do need men, but
absolutely,
women do have the power-filled energetics within us to step forward and help and speed up this paradigm positive shift that this world needs. And it needs to be done through our voices. It's enough of the meek, mild speaking. And I understand, some of these women culturally are raised like that. But, when you were saying, Ariana, like Asians, those women are told to speak softly. Oh my gosh. The second you said, I'm thinking, I would last 5 seconds. That culture.
It's not all Asians.
Yes.
I think it's not so much true for the Chinese or Koreans, but more true for the Japanese
Yes.
and
Yes.
and in India.
Yes, in our country here in the United States, I was just reading a book that I could not put down. I enjoyed it a lot. It was about Mary Kay, the Mary Kay Cosmetics, and asked me about Mary Kay by Jackie Brown, who was her first consultant, and it was back in the 60s in Dallas, Texas, and some of the things of how the family traditions were and what the unspoken expectations of the women. At first I had to go, wait a minute, what is going on here? And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, this is back in the 60s. This is back in the 60s, and it was different than it is now in the 21st century. So, in the 2000s. But I think it's so beautiful. First of all, the work that you do, I do believe, I want to say, again, I'm a little biased opinion, you're about one of very few out there doing this work from this angle, if you will, from this platform, if you will.
Right, from this particular perspective.
Yeah. And I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. And by the way, we will move on some more here, but listeners, take note. Doesn't Ariana have a beautiful voice? Okay, so next. Told you we were going to do some laughing tonight. Okay, so I love that you say how we use our voice, and it's really central to who we are and how well we communicate. So, give us some examples of how our voice, which you did a little bit by lowering, but give us some examples without, again, I don't expect you to give your bag of carrots away. Give us some examples of how a woman comes to you, Ariana, who is an entrepreneur, business owner like you and I, who is very soft-spoken and is not projecting and is literally hurting not just herself, but she's hurting her business. What do you do? What are the first steps you do?
Well, especially with someone who's very soft-spoken, I explore with them the reasons why they speak that way, and I call those voice stories. And it's really fun to uncover these voice stories, which I talked about a little bit, these unconscious decisions that we made about how to speak. And I'll tell you the story. I have one client who came to me who was exactly that type of woman who was very soft-spoken. She also had a very small, energetic presence. She was a person that you didn't notice when they walked into the room. And I met her in Zumba class. Zumba is my current form of happy exercise. I love Zumba. And she used to come in and stand in the back of the room, and she decided to work with me. And she lives in Santa Cruz, so she and I were working in person. And I do work online. For those of you who are listening, I work over video, Skype, or FaceTime if you're an Apple person, and in person in Santa Cruz, California, if you're in Central California area. But I gave her this homework to do. And when you're changing patterns of speech that are habits of a lifetime, I want you to know it takes time and consistent practice to change these things. This is not something we can do overnight. Your voice is produced using muscles and resonance, and how you speak is dependent on these old voice stories. And to change those habits and patterns does take time and practice consistently. So I had given her some homework to do, and she came back in the next week and said, boy, when I do that, I feel like I'm yelling. So I must have asked her to practice speaking more loudly. So I whipped out my decibel meter. I'm a geek, and I have a decibel meter on my iPhone. And so I said, okay, show me what you think of as yelling. And she did, and the needle barely moved, right? So I said, okay, let me show you what I think of as yelling. And that's only half my yelling voice, but I didn't want to blow your ears out on the radio here. And the needle, of course, went way over into the red zone, and her jaw just dropped wide open. So I thought for a second, and I said, were you always told to be quiet as a child? And she said, oh my God, my parents were always telling me girls should be seen and not heard. And that was this huge light bulb moment for her. And that was her biggest voice story, but she had internalized that. And she realized that her parents had not told her that in order to cripple her for life, and hamper her eventual career. They just, that's what they had been told probably. And she did admit that she used to ask a lot of questions. And they probably got exhausted from answering her questions. But she had just internalized that, and she created this very small voice. And one of the issues that she had when she started working with me was that she used to meet regularly with a group of women friends in a restaurant. And people would never listen to her. And her friends were always talking over her. And this was really irritating to her, and she couldn't understand why. Well, the reason was that she had this very calm, quiet voice, and she didn't project at all. And in a crowded, noisy restaurant, people couldn't even hear her.
Wow.
And also her quiet voice that way and her whole physical energy said, I'm not important. What I'm saying is not important. Mm. So why would they pay attention to that? Mm. So she learned to use what she calls her power voice. And when she did that, she got a new job. She found herself taking the lead at work in ways that she'd never done before. And she started setting boundaries with her family members in ways that she had never done before. She was caring for an elderly dad, had an adult son still living at home, had a brother living with her in between jobs, and her sister, who lived in the area, wasn't really helping out with her dad very much. So she started coming in for sessions and saying, well, I've decided that this isn't really working for me with my brother. And so I've told him that I'm setting these parameters, and it was very just calm and quiet, and this is what I'm going to do. And she had this explosion of creativity. She started writing poetry, and she started drawing. And so opening up her voice changed her whole life.
Mm. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and then I want to give you, so that's the very quiet voice that says, I'm small and unimportant. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to tell you, she started standing in the front in Zumba.
Oh, I love it.
She used to stand in the back. Now she stands in the front.
I love that.
And you notice her when she walks in the room. Her whole energy field expanded.
That's amazing.
So, in another example, this is kind of the opposite issue, is if somebody has a voice like this, that's really, really irritating, right? But there's a certain actress who's made a whole career out of using this kind of voice. Anybody who knows Fran Drescher, that's probably not her normal speaking voice when she's at home.
I don't think it is, Ariana, and that amazes me as an actress that they do that, the whole series around that voice, and because I've seen her in interviews, that is not her actual normal speaking voice, but
right,
yeah, but that is that irritating sound.
Yeah, so for some people who just speak that way naturally, mm-hmm. I can help them soften that tone because it is harsh and irritating to the ear. But the truth is, if you don't have any of that quality in your voice, you can't project at all and people don't hear you. So if you are one of those quiet, soft-spoken people, like with the client I was telling you about, I had to teach her how to use some of that in her voice so that she could be heard. And that helped her be heard by her elderly dad who has some hearing loss.
Mm. Yeah.
So there's a geeky technical reason why that works, but mm-hmm. I'll tell you, it's a muscle. It's a muscle that does that. And you can learn to strengthen the muscle and you can learn to open it up a little bit. So that particular voice quality, that can really sabotage your business. If people find you irritating to listen to, they aren't going to want to be on the phone with you for an hour or be in a workshop with you all day. Right?
So Ariana, these two samples that you're giving us of the soft-spoken and then, of course, the irritating voice, do you implement in your voice coaching practice a lot of your trained opera singer exercises?
No, I don't give people singing exercises at all.
I mean, for the muscle and the throat and the muscle and the voice, I mean, that does not apply.
If they are someone whose voice issues need particular technical help, then I do give them that.
Okay.
But a lot of times, what people need is more expression in their voice. They've developed a habit of speaking very quietly, and then this is another voice story. I call it therapy voice. People who are MFCCs or yoga teachers or even massage therapists or psychiatrists develop this very calm, quiet voice that's very good for using in a one-on-one therapy session, but it's terrible if you're trying to speak on stage or interest somebody in doing some other kind of work with you, or or if you're trying to get somebody excited about something, right?
Yes.
So that's another one of those things that can be problematic. In that kind of voice, people need to get more energy into their voice, and they need to use more expression. And even people who speak fairly well and don't have a nasal quality, and they don't really have a quiet voice that's too small, they usually don't use as much expression as they think they're using. So I have been doing these Google Hangouts where I coach people live for about 10 minutes each, so people can get a kind of sample about how I work and watch me work. And that's the thing that I mostly do on these live Hangouts, because the people who come on in general think they're using a lot of expression, but I demonstrate to them that they actually aren't. And when I mirror back to them, I have them read me their mission statements for their business, and they'll read it for me. And then when I mirror back to them how they read it, they go, "Really? Is that how I sounded?" I thought I was using a lot more expression than that. So our self-listening is usually not terribly accurate. You know how when you listen to yourself on a recording, you usually say, "Who the heck is that? That doesn't sound like me."
Yes.
That's because our self-listening is not very accurate. Not only do we hear ourselves primarily through what's called bone conduction, this is another geeky thing, but we also filter our own voices through our own idea of what we sound like in our brains. Because hearing is what the ear does with the sound that it collects, and listening is what the brain does with what the ear hears.
That's interesting.
So our brains are always filtering what we hear through our experience and through our perceptions and through our ideas about what we're listening to.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense, too.
Right.
Wow.
So for those people out there for whom you get the feedback that people don't understand what you said, even though you think you're communicating clearly, but somebody comes back to you and says, what? What do you mean? It's because you're not using as much expression as you think you are. And the person listening to you is also filtering what you're saying through their brain.
Yes.
So there are all these levels of communication. And that actually brings me, I'd love to bring in the sacred money archetypes right here. Would that work, Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead. Really quickly, hold on, Ariana. We're halfway through the show, which we've got more than enough time. Do you want to throw in your website right now real quick and then come back to
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
My website is www.reclaimyourauthenticvoice.com. And I do offer a complimentary 30-minute initial consultation, which I call a Transform Your Public Speaking session. And you can book one of those. There are lots of buttons on my website to book a complimentary 30-minute session if you'd like to talk with me about the possibility of working together. So, and I also am going to tell you about a special gift that I have for listeners of this show today, but I'm going to leave that for a little bit later in the show. But I wanted to let you know about something that I have begun working with, which I'm really excited about. This is so interesting, and it fits in so beautifully with what I already do. I am becoming a Sacred Money Archetypes certified coach. And Sacred Money Archetypes, there are 8 of them. And these are just amazing. There's an assessment that we give to help people discover what their top archetypes are. And we actually work with the top 3 and your last one. So 1, 2, and 3, and 8. And they are just these incredible windows into who you are, what your particular challenges are. And they're designed, of course, around money, but they're also designed to help you align your spiritual and financial success. So they really fit with my spiritual bent as well. And they really tell me so much about people's communication styles also. So these archetypes just work beautifully, fit beautifully in with my work with communication and voice. So, for instance, I just did a Sacred Money Archetypes reading with someone the other day, and her top archetype is celebrity, which is your inner big shot. And the name celebrity gives you some clues as to what that archetype is about. But it was really interesting to see how that affected her communication style. And she's one of those people who's really gung-ho, and she's got a lot going on, and she's got a lot to offer, and she knows all kinds of stuff, and yet it was a little bit hard for her to be coached. And that's the celebrity wants to be the star. And it was so powerful for her to see it in that context. So these Sacred Money Archetypes give us just wonderful windows into how we operate with money in our businesses and in our communication skills and styles. So another person that I did a reading with has romantic as his number 1, and celebrity is his last. And he is a person that tends to stay out of the spotlight. And that's not so great when you're trying to build a business.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, yes.
And you can see that if you're a romantic, your communication style is going to be kind of laid back, and you're going to be warm, and you're going to be kind of warm and fuzzy, but you're not going to have that little bit of excitement, charisma, and magnetism that the celebrity has. And so our last archetype is one that tells us things that we need to work on, and we need to bring more into our consciousness and awareness and use. And as we develop that last archetype, then it really brings a lot of balance for us. So I was talking with him about, letting that inner celebrity come forward. He needs to be able to get into the spotlight a little bit if he's really going to grow his business.
Oh, this sounds so fascinating. Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Wow. So are you going to be, Ariana, are you going to be, is this going to be one of your main, for lack of better words, your main focus, one of your main tools incorporating into your business with everything else that you're doing? Because it sounds like this could really high leverage your work with your clients. This.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fabulous tool, and I'm incorporating it into the Reclaim Your Authentic Voice program. So it's it's just becoming part of what I do because it's so fabulous. And also, people who are working with me get a set of these 8 beautiful cards, and they are just really lovely. And there's all kinds of wonderful information on the cards and empowering statements and empowering words that you can use. So there's all kinds of ways that we can use the archetype cards to create practices that can really improve your money, your business, and your communication.
Oh, that sounds so exciting. I'm very interested in that. And I did not realize, are you currently in a coaching certification program for that specific tool, or have you completed it? Oh, okay, all right.
I have not completed it yet. So yes, I'm currently in the coaching program. But there's so much that already I am able to bring in that I'm just really excited about it. And they actually encourage us to start using it right away.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat. That's the best way to learn. To me, that for me personally, that's the best way to implement and learn is to take something and start utilizing it right away. That's just how I learn, and that's how I work.
Yep.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God, that sounds so exciting. I need to hear more after the show on all that. And we were talking a little bit about that before the show too. I mean, I really love it. So here's what I'd like you to share with all the listeners is your background is, it's beautiful. It is amazing. You're a former professional opera singer, a massage therapist, a certified provider of the listening program, which we need to hear a little bit about that, and the certified caring, economy conversation leader and transformational voice coach. How did you arrive to all of this?
Well, some of my story I tell in my chapter in our Bold is Beautiful book. So I really encourage you all to go and grab the book if you don't have it already, because the stories are really inspirational, not just mine, but everyone in the book. I just have loved being part of this project and meeting these amazing women and hearing the testimonials from people who have read the book and how inspiring they have found it. It's just wonderful. So you can read some of my story in my chapter, but I'll give you a little bit more of my background. I have this very eclectic background. I'm a person who's never done just one thing in life. I always had kind of 3 things going, and part of that was because I went into the arts. And after college, I did go to Harvard, and I became a professional modern dancer in New York City after college. And you can't make a living doing that unless you're in one of the very, very, very top companies. Mm-hmm. So I also became a massage therapist because I always had my fingers in everybody's injuries anyway. So I've been a massage therapist since 1984, and I have also trained in craniosacral therapy, which is a very subtle and gentle form of work that requires real sensitivity.
Yes.
And that has developed my capacities in terms of kind of energy healing and clearing. And I actually incorporate that energy clearing and energy healing work in my work with my Reclaim Your Authentic Voice clients, if it's appropriate, if it's wanted and needed. And I can do that at distance, and I really enjoy doing that work. And then I also, after I moved out to California in 1987, I started studying classical voice after I had my kids. And I was able to have a part-time professional opera career in the Monterey Bay area. I sang principal roles in regional opera, and I just absolutely loved it, and started teaching voice. And then I developed this problem. I couldn't stay on pitch anymore. And it was absolutely, absolutely devastating. I loved singing and performing more than anything else except my kids, in the world. And to lose my voice was just unbelievably devastating. And And then about 2 years after I lost my voice, I lost my marriage to my kid's dad. So really, that losing my singing voice was a result of the dysfunctional marriage and having lost my voice kind of globally in life. And my ex-husband is still my kid's dad, and I don't believe in trashing people, especially those that I'm still connected with. And I really don't believe that it was intentional. But this brings me back around to the cultural conversation and ties in with the Caring Economy campaign stuff. The cultural conversation around women raising kids is that has no value. And it isn't accorded any monetary value in our economic policies and our economic models. That's just free stuff that women do. And it's just what women do. But and so in my marriage, which started out more like a real partnership, but kind of devolved as the years went along into I did all of the work in the home, and my husband worked outside the home. I also always worked part-time outside the home. But his refrain during our divorce was that I had not pulled my weight in the marriage because I hadn't made enough money in his eyes. Mm-hmm. And I kind of, that was really devaluing. That devalued what I spent most of my time doing, which was caring for my kids in my home. I volunteered in their schools. I chauffeured them to and from school. I helped them with homework, with music lessons, with sports, with whatever. And I also worked and earned money. And then I had this very part-time singing career. But so that really made me lose my way in the world, my sense of who I was, my sense of my value as a person and what I had to offer was really, really low at that time. Mm-hmm. And I did manage to make it out of that marriage in one piece, and I am happy to say that I'm happily repartnered with someone who I think really values me. So the process has been positive in the long run. And let me get back to I'm going kind of in circles here, sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
My singing voice, recovering my singing voice. I have always been desperately trying to get my singing voice back because my singing voice to me was the voice of my soul. And it was singing and doing music was my most immediate connection with the divine. So that has always been incredibly important to me to recover that. So part of recovering it was getting a divorce. And I was diagnosed with acid reflux before the divorce. And so I had to heal that and had to get a divorce and get through all that. And then I eventually discovered, and this wasn't for some years after I had to stop singing, that I could not hear that I wasn't on pitch in a certain part of my range. I couldn't hear it. But if I listened to a recording of myself, I could hear that I wasn't. But not while I was singing. And I was like, what in the world is that? And in my search for answers, I came across the work of Dr. Alfred Tomatis, who was a French ear, nose, throat physician who started working in the 50s in France, started working with singers to help them recover from voice problems, and he started using specially filtered and engineered music and ear voice training to retrain the brain's ability to perceive all of the frequencies so that they could sing accurately again. So that's why I'm a certified provider of the listening program. It's a home-based listening program that does that process that Dr. Tomatis' work did starting back in the 50s, but now with technology, with iPods and things, we can do it at home. We don't have to go to a clinic and be plugged into a big machine.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to retrain my brain's ability to hear my own voice accurately. And so with some of the clients I work with, they have difficulty, if they have a real difficulty perceiving sound accurately, then I recommend that they do a listening program as well.
Wow.
So that's another option. But the programs like the listening program are generally used mostly with children with learning disabilities, because a lot of learning difficulties are related to auditory processing in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And when we improve auditory processing, then those learning difficulties can become less or go away. So things like dyslexia, which is often actually an auditory issue, not a visual issue.
Mm.
And even autism spectrum and ADD, ADHD, all those things respond very well to auditory retraining.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the ear voice training piece was really critical for me, and so that's how some of my work with Reclaim Your Authentic Voice came about. But finally, it was this piece of really coming into my own and becoming again, or perhaps for the first time, fully who I am, and fully expressing who I am in the world, that became Reclaim Your Authentic Voice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You know, Ariana, listening to your background, and of course I knew some of that because of your chapter in the Bold is Beautiful book. I still heard in there, and it is now a part. It's not you anymore. That's a story, because you have evolved and healed from this, and you took some lemons and you made some lemonades with your business. Right. And some yummy, deliciously good lemonade, I might add. But I still heard in there at that point of, and I'm going to say this for all women, because I've been in this place at one point in my life too, is the lack of self-worth, and not to buy in, whether it's a process of a divorce or an argument with a quote-unquote a so-called friend, is not to buy in to what they are projecting on to us. Now, that is easier said than done. That is so easier said than done. And that to me, because, and I'm going to say this, Ariana, because you are a transformational voice coach, that's an improper way of using our God-gifted voices.
Right.
That is a very improper way. And having our two sets of ears is grasping what we're hearing and actually storing it in our brain and start buying into it. And I feel that's where a lot of lack of self-worth comes from women, and how we are feeling about ourselves and how we present ourselves out there in society. So I'm going to say this. Ladies, you know what? Don't do this any longer. Gather yourself up some help, whether it's to learn how to transform your voice, and you need a transformational voice coach, or whether it's a business consultant or whatever. Gather your village, because there is nothing more powerful than gathering up a village, especially when it's a village of a room full of metaphorical room full of women. Because look what we did with the book. I mean, a couple days before Christmas, everyone's going bonker crazies because it's the holidays, and we drove that book up into a #1 international bestseller. That's the power-filledness of a group of women. So,
yes.
Reach out to Ariana, or get your hands on a book. Bold is Beautiful. And there's other books out there too as well. And get inspired by our stories to help you step and move forward as well. Mm-hmm. You know, that it's so important.
I was at an event yesterday, and the woman who led it said something just wonderful that I would love to share. She said, the age of the guru is over. It's now the time of the sisterhood of teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I love that. Say it again one more time. I love that.
The age of the guru is over. It's now the time of the sisterhood of teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I want to add, that's beautiful, Ariana. I want to add to that just a little bit of a tinge there is, because I get a lot of women asking, how do you find a sisterhood? And how, where do you go? And how do you know? And, you know, the curiosity, my 3-year-old curiosity questions. You know, I hear women, ask that. And it's first turn in. You must turn in and get reacquainted and know yourself and believe in yourself and learn to love yourself. And in that process, the right village will come. The right women will show up. But we have to turn in first and foremost and clean up and go through our own personal healing before we can step into a sisterhood, or else we're still going to be involved with the projecting and the spewing, as I call it.
Right.
You know, and enough of projecting and spewing on our own selves too. I mean, that I don't think 100% ever goes away. You know, our mindset likes to perk up there just a little bit every so often, but learn how to grow and become strong through your voice, through listening, to grow and stop taking yourself down. Because Ariana, and I'm going to speak here, and I do believe you'll agree with me on this. Every single woman deserves what she wants in life. Joy, happiness, success, whatever that is, those terms on her terms, her life. Every woman deserves it. Every single solitary woman deserves it. Period.
Absolutely.
Period.
And I have a little exercise for you all in that context, which is I suggest you uncover your voice stories. So here are some questions. What was it like growing up in your family? What role did you take on? What decisions did you make about your voice, your actual voice, and your voice in the world? And here's another little exercise. When you talk about something that's difficult to say, ask yourself, am I speaking authentically? Mm-hmm. Am I presenting myself authentically through my voice, or am I holding back? Am I speaking this way out of an old story that doesn't apply anymore? Mm-hmm. Is the way I'm speaking making it harder to be truly heard and understood? And when you uncover these stories, they begin to shift. And as you shift your ways of speaking, your voice stories will begin to release their hold on you.
Yeah. Yes. I love, first of all, I'm glad these radio shows, of course we're live right now, but afterwards it's also, you know, there's recording. So for the people who are listening, or for those who have missed it, they can go back and they can get these questions. But the one that really jumps out to me the most, Ariana, is when we are in a situation and we want to speak our opinion, and our opinions do matter, and we hold it back. We are not in our authentic selves. We are not standing and coming from our authentic selves. If we feel we need to hold back, or if we feel we need to play it down, or maybe soften our approach, we are not in our authentic selves. Period.
Right.
Period. Do you realize we have like 2 minutes left to the show?
Yeah, I know.
I knew this was going to happen. Happen.
Well, let me just really quickly say the special gift that I have for listeners.
Yes.
You can go and grab that at reclaimyourauthenticvoice.com/gift, GIFT, and that is a PDF download titled Attract Your Ideal Clients with Your Authentic Voice. So it has a lot of tips for how you can develop your authentic voice and connect more with your ideal clients.
I love it. Say that one more time. Your website and the gift, please.
Reclaimyourauthenticvoice.com /gift.
And Ariana, on your website, can the listeners go learn more about the archetype program that you're working with?
I don't have that up on the website yet. We're in the middle of doing a kind of website revamp, and it's not done. So if you are interested in the Sacred Money Archetypes, just go and book one of those Transform Your Public Speaking 30-minute initial consultation sessions, and we can talk about Sacred Money Archetypes then.
Yep, absolutely. So please reach out to Ariana. Ariana, thank you. I was halfway into the show and I'm thinking, all right, this needs to be a couple-hour show. There's just so much. It's 60 minutes. In fact, we're past 60 minutes. That's 60 minutes. This hour went by really fast, and I knew it would. And so, Ariana, thank you so much for being on the show this evening. Thank you so much for participating in Bold is Beautiful. Everybody get the book and really get to know Ariana even some more, along with her and the other 27 co-authors, because I just cannot say this enough. Every single woman was so beautiful through their words. Just so impeccably, amazingly, authentically beautiful. Beautiful.
It's just an honor to be part of that group.
Yes, absolutely. So again, thank you so much, Ariana, for being on here tonight. Everyone, please reach out to her. You can also reach out to me at www.kimb.com and boldradiostation.com. Please join me next Monday evening. We'll have another co-author from the book with the Bold Monday, Mindful Monday Biz Tips and Inspirations. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I also have a show on Thursdays, which is the Thursday Biz Tips and Strategies, and please join us. And there's also a lot going on in the Bold radio station. Oh my God, I haven't even gotten to the tip of the iceberg yet. We've got several women with their shows. They're awesome, they're wonderful, they're inspirational, they're informative, they have business strategies and tips in specific arenas, and I'm going to be showcasing women artists, singers as well. And we're going to have some midday tips. Hopefully that will all be up and running next week. I want tips for the busy moms on the go and tips for the stressful entrepreneur. Just a 5-day midday tips to help unwind and get through the rest of our day. So stay tuned for all of that. It's going to be fun and exciting. So please join me next Monday or again this Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And Ariana, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. It was really fun.
Thanks. Have a great evening, everybody.
Bye.